Best part of my job is working with my family every day, and the worst part of my job is working with my.
Corey Harrison looked like he had it all on Pawn Stars. Fame, money, and a family business worth millions. But behind the cameras, his life was falling apart in ways nobody saw coming. At 26, he was already fighting for his life in ways that had nothing to do with the shop. By 30, he was making desperate decisions that would shock his own family. The weight of secrets, failed relationships, and dark family tragedies would eventually break him. What happened next changed everything, and it's worse than you think. Corey Harrison was born on April 27, 1983 in Las Vegas. His family already owned the gold and silver pawn shop, which had been co-founded by his grandfather and run by his parents, Rick and Kim. From the start, Corey wasn't just a regular kid in a regular family. He was born into a business that would become one of the most famous pawn shops in the world. While the city around him buzzed with casinos and neon lights, Corey was growing up surrounded by the quiet hum of deals being made, treasures being appraised, and family tensions brewing behind the counter. Corey Harrison was born on April 27, 1983 in Las Vegas. His family already owned the gold and silver pawn shop, which had been co-founded by his grandfather and run by his parents, Rick and Kim. From the start, Corey wasn't just a regular kid in a regular family. He was born into a business that would become one of the most famous pawn shops in the world. While the city around him buzzed with casinos and neon lights, Corey was growing up surrounded by the quiet hum of deals being made, treasures being appraised, and family tensions brewing behind the counter. The shop wasn't just a place to work. It was the family's heartbeat, and Corey was already in the middle of it before he even understood its weight. By the time he was 9, Corey wasn't watching cartoons. He was polishing jewelry, organizing shelves, and watching his father and grandfather closely. They taught him not just how to spot gold or silver, but how to spot people, their tells, their tricks, and their truths. At an age when most kids were still learning basic math, Corey was learning how to read value, not just in dollars, but in character. By 12, he was already handling real sales. Some of the adult customers didn't even realize a kid was managing their deal until they walked out with less money than they expected. That wasn't luck. Corey had been absorbing everything like a sponge. And by his teenage years, he had more hands-on business knowledge than many college grads. At 13, Corey began identifying rare coins, military items, and old guitars with a kind of accuracy that even surprised the staff. He had a gift for spotting authenticity and understanding what something was truly worth. People at the shop started noticing that when Corey made a call, it usually paid off. He had what his grandfather called the eye. It wasn't magic. It was thousands of hours watching, touching, learning, and asking questions. By 16, he was spending thousands on shop purchases and being trusted with big decisions, even when his calls clashed with what others thought. Most of the time, he turned out to be right. But growing up in that spotlight wasn't easy. Corey wasn't just a son or grandson. He was the future of the business, and everyone knew it. Rick, his father, expected him to work harder than anyone else and didn't treat him gently. He made it clear that family ties meant nothing unless you proved yourself. The old man was different, but just as demanding in his own way. Corey had to live up to both their expectations, and he had to do it while customers and staff watched everything. Every family disagreement about a deal or decision happened in front of everyone. By the time he was 17, the pressure was already taking a toll. He started pushing back, but the tension only grew stronger. Those cracks would later turn into must-watch TV. The nickname Big Hoss didn't just come from nowhere. By 16, Corey stood 6 feet tall and weighed over 400 pounds. His size made him hard to miss, but it was his growing leadership that made the name stick. Rick started calling him that, not just as a joke, but because he was clearly becoming a boss in the shop. Customers started asking for him directly, knowing he could give a better deal or faster decision. Employees twice his age started respecting his judgment. The name wasn't just about size anymore. It was about presence. As his role grew, so did the weight on his shoulders. By his mid-teens, Corey was already running parts of the shop. He was still in high school, but outside of class, he was managing inventory, negotiating high-dollar purchases, and handling customers with confidence. The gold and silver pawn shop had over 30 employees, and many of them were older and more experienced. Corey had to prove himself every single day. His father kept handing him more responsibility, and Corey kept stepping up, but it came at a cost. While other kids were going to dances or hanging out at the mall, Corey was in the back office making deals and learning the hard way what could go wrong. The first time he made a big purchase without everyone's approval, it caused a blow-up. Corey had a habit of spending big on things he liked: classic cars, motorcycles, unusual collectibles. Some of these items made a profit, but others raised eyebrows. Rick and the old man didn't always agree with his decisions, and the arguments could be loud in public. These moments created deep tension in the family and staff, but they also made for great television when Pawn Stars finally aired. Corey wasn't afraid to take risks, and even when it went wrong, he stood by his calls. Corey made a decision early on to skip the usual school path. While his classmates were studying for exams, he was learning how to identify Civil War swords and test the purity of gold. He missed out on things like parties, sports, and just hanging out. But in return, he got a skill set that few people his age ever develop. He didn't have a diploma from a fancy school, but he could tell you what a 19th century musket was worth within seconds. That gamble paid off when Pawn Stars became a hit because suddenly his niche knowledge had value far beyond the shop. Being a boss at a young age brought its own set of problems. Many employees didn't want to take orders from someone so young. Some had been working at the shop since before Corey was born, and now he was their manager. He had to work twice as hard to prove he deserved their respect. He brought in new ideas, streamlined inventory, and expanded the shop floor to 15,000 square feet. One of his smartest moves was hiring his friend Austin Russell, better known as Chumley. At the time, nobody thought much of it, but that decision helped shape the show's cast and chemistry. Despite the challenges, Corey built a team that worked both for the shop and the cameras, finding a balance between running a real business and performing for millions of viewers. In 2009, everything changed for the Harrison family because of one unplanned moment. A YouTube video showing Rick Harrison dealing with a difficult customer somehow ended up in front of the right eyes at the History Channel. For years, Rick had been trying to pitch a pawn shop show to networks, but no one bit. Then suddenly, producer Nancy Jubuk saw the potential in the family store. The show was originally pitched as something entirely different, with HBO once considering a dark, late-night version. But it was this simple clip shared online without expectations that lit the fuse. When it finally premiered on July 19, 2009, it didn't just take off. It became the highest-rated show on the entire network within a year. Only Jersey Shore pulled in more viewers across reality television. The timing couldn't have been better. With the economy struggling and Las Vegas businesses under pressure, audiences were drawn to the idea of a family-run pawn shop hustling through hard times. Corey Harrison didn't look or act like a typical TV star. He was 26 years old, had never acted before, and didn't get media coaching. But the moment cameras started rolling, something clicked. Corey wasn't trying to be entertaining. He just knew what he was talking about. He had worked in the shop since he was 9, starting with cleaning jewelry. Over the years, he had learned everything from the ground up. His love for antiques, classic cars, and motorcycles wasn't staged. It was real, and that passion translated directly to viewers. His relaxed style and sharp humor made him stand out, especially next to his grandfather's serious tone and his father's strategic calm. By 2010, fans were flooding social media with praise for Corey. He wasn't just explaining history, he was living it. He also wasn't afraid to take chances on big purchases, which made every scene feel unpredictable. That unpredictability hit its peak during one of the show's most intense moments. In Season 7, Episode 13, Corey made a move that shocked both his family and the audience. He told them flat out that he was ready to walk away unless he got a 10% stake in the business. At 28, Corey was running the daily operations and managing 30 employees. He also happened to be the one making the shop's biggest purchases. Despite all that, he owned 0% of the company. The business was making $3 million a year, and Corey had no part of it beyond a paycheck. That didn't sit right with him. He had even been approached by rival businesses offering him better deals. His threat to leave wasn't just for show. It came from a place of real frustration. The family had never faced anything like this on or off screen, and the cameras caught every raw second. But behind the scenes, tensions were already high. The show's popularity only made things worse. Former producers admitted that many family arguments were too intense to even air. Corey's bold spending, including a $40,000 motorcycle, put serious strain on the business. Running a store while starring in a top-rated reality show created constant pressure. There were no off days. Rick once said, even going out for dinner became a challenge because fans kept interrupting them. The lines between real life and performance started to blur. Corey's demands for ownership on screen weren't just a storyline. They were echoes of real conversations happening behind closed doors. The emotional weight wasn't fake. It was the result of years of hard work and the pressure of living under a spotlight that never turned off. Eventually, the family reached a turning point. After intense talks, Corey was granted a 5% partnership. It wasn't the full 10, but it came with a substantial raise and a promise of more in the future. For Corey, it was a win. He went from being just an employee to being a true part owner. That 5% represented more than money. It gave him authority and allowed him to make big purchase decisions without constant approval. And considering the shop's growing success, his stake was already worth a serious sum. It also positioned him as the future face of the business. The show wasn't just capturing entertainment. It was filming the passing of a torch. Corey's instincts, boldness, and loyalty had reshaped his role. He wasn't waiting to inherit the family legacy. He was building it one tough conversation at a time. Then came a different kind of wake-up call. In 2010, Corey visited the doctor and saw a number that would change his life, 402 pounds. But it wasn't just the number that scared him. His doctor immediately wrote a prescription for diabetes prevention medication. This wasn't a warning. It was the beginning of a medical emergency. Corey realized his health wasn't just at risk. It was already on the edge. His body had started resisting insulin, and the medication was a last-ditch effort to hold off full-blown diabetes. In that moment, it became clear this wasn't about appearance. It was about survival. Diabetes doesn't just make life harder. It can take away vision, destroy kidneys, damage the heart, and shorten life by decades. Corey knew he couldn't wait anymore. Something had to change, and it had to happen fast. What followed showed just how desperate he had become. The lap band surgery he needed wasn't covered, and he didn't have the cash. Instead of waiting, Corey made a decision most people would never even consider. He maxed out 4 different credit cards to pay for it. That's not just a financial risk. It's the kind of move that could someone's future. But for Corey, the choice was simple. Either risk debt or risk dying. And he chose debt. The surgery became a symbol of his refusal to let his weight destroy everything he had worked for. It was a life-or-death choice that showed how seriously he took the threat of diabetes. He didn't care about interest rates. He cared about living long enough to enjoy the future he was fighting for. 6 weeks later, the results spoke louder than any press release. Corey lost 50 pounds in just a month and a half. That's over 8 pounds a week, something most doctors would call dangerously fast. But for Corey, it was proof that he had made the right call. His stomach could now only hold a few ounces of food at a time, forcing his body to burn through stored fat. By the end of the first year, he had lost more than 150 pounds. But those first 50 were the real game share. They showed him and everyone watching that his wild decision to go into debt was already paying off. It gave him momentum and confidence to keep going. Corey Harrison's 31st birthday was supposed to be a celebration, not a near-death experience. On April 26, 2014, he got on his motorcycle to grab some last-minute supplies for the party his family and friends were setting up at his house. But just as he was riding at 40 miles per hour, the bottom fender mount on his bike suddenly broke without warning. That mechanical failure turned a simple errand into a terrifying situation. The motorcycle started spinning out of control. Corey only had seconds to act. He could either crash into oncoming traffic or a nearby wall, or he could do the unthinkable. Jump off the bike while it was still moving. He jumped. It was fast, terrifying, and felt like the only option. At that speed, throwing yourself onto pavement could be deadly, but staying on meant certain disaster. His bike kept spinning until it fell apart. But Corey, scraped and bruised, was alive. And instead of heading straight to the emergency room, he made a choice that shocked everyone. He went to the party anyway, still hurting and probably in shock. He greeted guests, smiled for photos, and tried to keep things normal. Nobody at the party knew what had just happened. Only after fulfilling his role as the birthday host did he finally go to the hospital. At the emergency room, doctors discovered the full extent of the damage. His hand was so badly broken that it required surgery. 8 screws and 2 metal plates were inserted to hold everything together. That hardware stayed in permanently. Before all of this, Corey had found love in high school. He met Charlene Steele when they were teenagers. They married in 2009 and even worked together at the Gold and Silver pawn shop. Charlene wasn't just the wife of a reality TV star. She became part of the shop's daily life. After they divorced in 2015, Charlene still worked at the shop for a while before launching her own online business selling handmade accessories. What made the divorce surprising was how private it was. There was no drama, no public fights, no blame game, just silence. And that silence made people speculate even more. In 2016, Corey found love again, this time with Karina Harrison, known as Kiki. She worked as an executive assistant at a California casino. Their relationship moved fast. They got married on May 26, 2017 in San Diego. Corey was open about his love for Kiki. He shared pictures, sweet captions, and moments of happiness online. But that happiness didn't last long. By August 2018, just 15 months after the wedding, Corey and Kiki filed for divorce. Kiki was pregnant at the time. Court documents showed they had already settled everything: custody, support, and paperwork before even filing. Corey's public comment was respectful. He said they still loved each other, but couldn't make it work due to their schedules. The divorce was finalized in September. Then, in October 2018, Kiki gave birth to their son, Richard Benjamin Harrison. He was named after Corey's grandfather, the man fans knew as the old man on Pawn Stars, who had passed away just 4 months earlier. The timing was emotionally complex. They were legally divorced, but had just welcomed a baby together. Rumors of a reunion started when Corey posted a photo of a tattooed wrist with the name Harrison and a romantic caption. But nothing was confirmed, and soon they stopped appearing on each other's social media. Things didn't get easier. In October 2020, Corey rented a 37-foot RV from William Villafur through RV Share. He was supposed to return it after 3 days, but he kept it for 6. When the RV finally came back, it was a disaster. The body was damaged, the awning was destroyed, and the inside was full of empty bottles, sand, and smashed eggs. The mess wasn't just a little wear and tear. It looked like vandalism. Villafana estimated the damage between $20,000 and $30,000. Just the body white cost around $8,000 and the new awning another $7,000. He had to cancel 10 bookings because the RV was unusable. This hurt his business badly, especially during the pandemic. Instead of paying for the damage, Corey reportedly refused to take responsibility. Despite having a net worth of around $2.6 million, he didn't cover the costs. Villafana was forced to file a complaint with the North Las Vegas Police Department and tried to claim insurance. Corey's rep claimed the RV's pop-outs wouldn't retract and said they had insurance, but that didn't explain the state of the interior. The dispute dragged on, adding more tension to an already messy situation. Then came the DUI arrest. On September 8, 2023, just after 2 in the morning, police stopped Corey near Main Street and Charleston Boulevard in Las Vegas. His white Ford F-250 had been swerving in and out of the bike lane. He had just returned from filming in Minnesota and was driving home to his apartment less than a mile away. The officer had to use a PA system to get him to stop. Corey already had his ID out and blamed the swerving on his truck pulling to the right. But the officer noticed his eyes were bloodshot and watery and there was a strong smell of alcohol. After failing a field sobriety test, Corey agreed to a breath test. But when they got to the Las Vegas City Jail, the machine was broken. They couldn't use the intoxilizer, so police took a blood sample instead. Corey later told reporters he was frustrated that none of the officers had a working breathalyzer. He claimed he only had 1 drink during his flight and none after landing. The results of the blood test were never shared publicly. He was booked at 2:28 a.m. and released about 8 hours later. He promised to hire a lawyer and fight the charges. Richard Harrison, better known to fans as the Old Man, died on June 25, 2018. He was 77 years old. What most people didn't know until the end was that he had been fighting Parkinson's disease for years. It was a slow and painful battle, and the family kept it mostly private. Viewers had no idea the man who helped build the gold and silver pawn shop and starred in nearly 300 episodes of Pawn Stars had been getting weaker behind the scenes. He retired in 2017, just as the show was reaching new levels of success. The timing couldn't have been wise. The man who built the empire was fading quietly. For fans, it felt sudden, but for his family, it had been a long, quiet goodbye. Rick Harrison's tribute to his father hit social media on the very same day. He called him a friend, a father, and a teacher. He also called him his hero. Over 245,000 people saw the post, and many could feel the grief in Rick's words. In another post, Rick shared an old photo of his dad when he was young. He said the old man would be missed not just by the family, but by fans around the world. The gold and silver pawn shop issued a statement, too, saying, Richard passed peacefully, surrounded by loved ones, but nothing could really prepare them. The shop had always been about 3 generations working side by side. Now, they were down to 2. Then came a second heartbreak. On January 19, 2024, Rick's youngest son, Adam Harrison, was found dead in a Las Vegas guest house. He was only 39. He hadn't been seen since January 17th. And another resident grew worried when the landlord finally checked the place. They found Adam unresponsive. The police report confirmed the tragic discovery. People close to him had noticed strange behavior in the days before his death. He had been isolating himself and acting paranoid. He had also just been released from jail after serving 3 months. The exact charges weren't made public. What is known is that Adam had battled addiction for years. His death wasn't a surprise to his family, but that didn't make it any easier. On February 29, 2024, the coroner's office confirmed the cause of death: fentanyl and methamphetamine toxicity. The death was ruled accidental. That combination is one of the deadliest in the country today. In 2021 alone, over 107,000 Americans died from drug overdoses. Nearly 88% of opioid deaths involve synthetic opioids like fentanyl. It's 50 to 100 times more powerful than morphine, and just a small amount can shut the body down. When mixed with methamphetamine, it becomes nearly impossible to survive. Rick didn't hold back in his response. He said the fentanyl crisis is flowing across borders and no one seems to be stopping it. Adam had become another number in a growing crisis that keeps taking lives every single day. Corey Harrison, Rick's other son, had his own problems long before Adam's death. On August 17, 2014, during a motorcycle tour with Hot Bike magazine, Corey stopped by a bar in Jefferson City, Missouri. He had already partied for 7 straight nights. That night, he kept drinking shot after shot. Witnesses later said he hadn't eaten all day. By the time he got to the second bar, he was already stumbling. The bar owner remembered him walking in and thinking this wasn't going to end well. At around 11:20 that night, things went completely off the rails. Corey pulled down his pants and urinated on a bar stool right there in front of everyone. Security cameras caught the entire thing. He even posed for pictures with his pants down, giving a thumbs up while doing it. The owner saw the whole thing happen. He asked Corey how he'd feel if someone walked into his pawn shop and did the same thing. Staff rushed to clean up the mess, but Corey didn't seem to care. When confronted, he threw a bar stool at the owner. The man pinned him against the wall and had him thrown out. Photos from that night quickly went viral. People who were there said Corey had been drinking heavily the entire week. They described his behavior as sloppy, loud, and out of control. One source said he was willing to do just about anything that night. After a full week of alcohol, no food, and non-stop partying, this incident felt inevitable. What made it worse was Corey's attitude. He didn't act embarrassed. If anything, he looked proud. There was no shame, no apology, just chaos. Years later, new concerns began to surface. In 2024, During season 22 of Porn Stars, viewers started noticing something strange about Corey's posture. He had a slouch that looked painful. Fans began asking online if he had scoliosis. The timing raised eyebrows, especially since Corey had been in a bad motorcycle accident back in 2014. He broke his arm and injured his back and foot. Now at 41, his physical condition seemed to be catching up with him. Photos and appearances from that time showed him looking tired and worn out. But the family never addressed the speculation publicly. It added yet another layer to a story that was already filled with loss and struggle. Corey's role in the porn shop also began to change. Even though he still holds the title of co-owner, the show is no longer filming. After 16 seasons, Porn Stars has been put on indefinite pause. The History Channel didn't renew the contract. Rick mentioned a possible reboot, something like Porn Stars 2.0. But Corey made it clear he won't be part of it. He said he couldn't keep pretending to be 23 when he was now 41. He wasn't interested in acting young anymore. After filming Wrapped in June 2024, he made a big move. Just 3 months later, he relocated to Tulum, Mexico. When asked about it, he said he was done and wished everyone luck. In Mexico, he's now focusing on a new venture. He's working with investors to open a barbecue restaurant called Big Horse's Smoke and Joint. It's a complete shift from his TV life. He started Porn Stars when he was just 26. Now, after 16 years on camera, he's trying something different. He walked away from fame, Las Vegas, and the shop that made him.